Akwaba Africa, Amingia Africa. Hello there, and thanks for joining us on this week's edition of 20 Questions. My name is Anji Anjei. I talk to Pan-Africanists globally to inspire you. Now, there's a new breed of Africans who think this continent deserves better. We are on the streets of Accra, Ghana, where we stumbled on one of these sons of Africa, a carefully selected guest on today's edition of the show. After the break, you shall be discovering whom he is. Stay with us. I belong to a new generation of Africans who believe in a renewal of Africa's spirit, culture, society, politics, and the economy. This is a quote from Dr. Gnaka Lagoke. He's a son of Africa from the Ivory Coast, based in the United States of America. He's our guest of today. He's going to be telling us this new spirit of Africa he believes in. Hello, Doctor, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anji, for the opportunity.
You believe Africa deserves better. You believe in a new Africa. What's wrong with the current Africa, according to you?
What we need to know is that for the last 500 years, the people of Africa they endured a series of systems of oppression, and since the 15th century, slavery, colonialism, apartheid, and then the Jim Crow laws in the United States, and then the police brutality in the United States, and then neocolonialism like in Africa, in the Caribbean. And then there were several generations of African leaders who fought in order to end each of those systems. So, but after the independence of many African countries in the 60s, we were hoping to see Africans or the African countries enjoying the rights to be sovereign and to determine the type of future they want for themselves and then for future generations. Unfortunately, besides the weaknesses part of the human nature, and besides the problems of poor governance and then poor management in Africa, Africa is suffering from neocolonialism. And so when we talk about neocolonialism, people have to know that this word was coined by Kwame Nkrumah, who published a book in 1965, The Neocolonialism, the Last Stage of Imperialism. And then in that book, it defines the features and the characteristics of neocolonialism. Just to give you an example, and to quote Thomas Sankara, when they asked him what is imperialism, he told them, the rice that you eat, which is in your plate, that is imperialism. Because even the food that we want to eat in Africa, the Europeans have put into place a system whereby we need, or they dump the resources and the food in Africa, just to give you an example. And that's why I belong to a group of people who believe that Africa can change, and then we've been fighting and promoting that vision of Pan-Africanism, and then we see victories, and then as Africans are waking up everywhere, from the trial of Babylona, the former president of Ivory Coast, who was in the ICC, and then he was freed thanks to the mobilization of Ivorians and the people of Africa, the people of African descent. We saw the People's Power movements in Senegal, 2012, the revolution in Burkina Faso, 2014, what Malema is doing in Southern Africa with that economic justice freedom movement that he launched, that has been emulated by some other people in Malawi, even in Ghana. And then now we saw like the campaign against the CFA franc launched by some African activists. So we see that there is a new spirit of Pan-Africanism, and then we are happy to know that we let ourselves being guided by the intelligence of history.
Of course, this sounds so interesting. But then, when I read through this new vision of yours and those who share the vision, we think that we've gone past the blame game, and we are looking at how, when, and who is to play what role in this renewal process of the Africa we want.
Yeah. So when we talk about the blame game, It's not like we doing the blame game, because one thing many people do not see is that the system that is put into place by the Europeans is still affecting the African people. Just to give you an example, we know that all of us, we're living, witnessing the Russian military intervention in Ukraine. Russia is a nuclear power, and then Russia is one of the most important countries in the world. Russia played a major role, like in recent history or during World War II. But if you see how the West went against Russia, risking the safety of mankind, because if there is a war between America and Russia, it's going to be a nuclear war. And then as you see how they use the power in every sector of the society to break Russia. So this is just this to give an idea of what they do to the African people. So that's why we need to continue to denounce every system that is put into place whose objective is to undermine the spirit of self-determination of the African people. That's one point. The other point, we have to take responsibility too. When we see some Africans who go to the hospital, for instance, and then the hospital manager wants the person who is sick to give some money before being treated, and the person dies. This we cannot put that on the Europeans. So this is how, when I talk about the African issues, this is how I do it from those two sides. Okay, we have to denounce them. At the same time, we have to see the ills of our societies and the things that we don't do right.
Yes, so exactly, we wanted to understand who should do what, how, and when, especially moving forward. We are living in times where the impact of neocolonialism, like you said, is still very, very evident and present. What exactly do you think? Let's look at leadership, for example. What should our leaders do to ensure that we pitch a way forward? We have governments that are seen to be, countries that are seen to be ruled by people who are considered to be stooges, people who don't take decisions on their own. I want you to talk in that light.
Yeah, but the problem is that I want to quote Gandhi. When Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see in the world. Usually, people think that it's like it is up to other people. It's up to the leaders to do the work. No, because the leaders, first of all, even those who want to do the right thing, because of the system that I was talking about, it is difficult for them to succeed. You see, so for instance, there was Mutharika was the president of Malawi. I saw him one day, he came to the US, and he was talking about the agricultural reform that he wanted to conduct for his country. He wanted to subsidize the agricultural sector in his country. Guess who said he should not do that? The Europeans. At the same time, they're giving subsidies to the farmers in order to sell their products at a cheaper price to Africa, and then to destroy every initiative in Africa undertaken by African farmers. Do you understand? So if we want to put our fate exclusively in the hands of our leaders, this is not going to work. Because we can have a Kwame Nkrumah, and you know Kwame Nkrumah's fate. You can have a Thomas Sankara, you know Thomas Sankara's fate. Patrice Lumumba, you know Patrice Lumumba's fate. You can have Mandela, 27 years in prison. Do you understand? So that's why it has to be a mass movement. We need to have multiple groups of people in the media, in the agricultural sector, like in the academia, everywhere. Africans have to be revolted, and then we need to work in unison. That's the only way for us, we can reduce, the disastrous power of the neocolonial agenda led by the Europeans. And it's not only them because even if China and Russia, even if they give the power of choice to Africa, the echo of what we hear coming from the Chinese companies in Africa, even if China was not involved in slavery like the Europeans, they're not showing that spirit of Confucianism which is the foundation of the Chinese society.
Interesting. You've been very vocal about injustices, be them political, economic, health, social, and culture. You can name them. Some call you the new generation Martin Luther King. To what extent do you see yourself as that?
Let me say it. Listen, King. This is another dimension of leadership. Yeah, so I will be pretentious and very arrogant, and then if I think like that. And so we admired King. What he did, he was young. What the work he did was an amazing work, and then so we have great leaders. But at the same time, we want to be able to transcend people who came before us, if we can. You see, Barack Obama came and he became the president. Barack Obama was like the manifestation, an aspect of the manifestation of the dream that Dr. King had. You see, that's the type of thing that we want to do. But King, even if Obama is a great leader, but King is another dimension. So, but one thing I want to say is that friends and I, we were promoting a new dispensation of Pan-Africanism, which stands on the Ubuntu philosophy. Somebody like Kwame Nkrumah, who is one of my greatest heroes, when he was thinking about building the United States of Africa, Nkrumah was talking about scientific socialism. He even published a book called Consciencism. And then, but it is difficult to go to the market women and tell them that we want to be united around scientific socialism, or we want to be united around consciencism. So the theory, that ideology around which, on a theoretical level and on the practical level, that we are using to promote that new dispensation of Pan-Africanism comes from South Africa. I say come from because it was promoted by Nelson Mandela, which is the Ubuntu philosophy. That's why I was pleased to know that your show is called Ubuntu. And then so that is the Ubuntu philosophy that we're using. And then in my research, I've discovered that that concept, that ideology, that spirit of African collectivism is spread in Africa. Out of the 2,000 languages in Africa, we have between 600 and 900 Bantu or Bantoid languages. And then, so we can see the concept almost everywhere. In Lingala, they call that Bomoto. In Uganda, they call that Abantu. In Shona, in Zimbabwe, they call that Unhu. And then in Ghana, they call that Ubuntu. And then when you go to the Igbo people in Nigeria, they call that Mamdu. Over there, they call that the beauty of life. And then in Burkina Faso, we call that Burkindi. And then Sheikh Anta Diop, who spoke about the linguistic unity of Africa and the correlation between the ancient Egyptian civilization and the civilization of the Bantu, revealed that a human being who used to be called in the ancient Egyptian language Nti, like NTI or NTU. So you can see that particle in the Ubuntu, in the Abantu, in the Mpuntu, and the Mamdu, and the Burkindi. So for us, it's also a matter of marketing. When you use that, you don't have to go and write a treatise about conscientism or about scientific socialism. All Africans can see themselves in that concept. Even the ones that are not Bantu, they have the similar concept. The Muslim will call that Umma. And then the Mande, for instance, we call that Maya, Magoya Maya. So you can see the same concept. So this is what we're promoting as we are claiming an African and endogenous African value system. And then we're making some progress.
If you're just tuning in, you're on to 20 questions. My name is Anji. I'm talking to Dr. Gnaka Lagoke. He is a staunch Pan-Africanist, a civil rights activist, so to say. When we come back after the break, we shall be delving into serious issues that are affecting the African continent, contemporary issues. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Doctor, some of the stumbling blocks to Africa's true emergence and emancipation have been attacked with corruption, long-standing monarchies, bad governance, and sociological fragmentation, as defined by the West, especially. They think that with these aspects in Africa, it's safe to say there is no democracy. Democracy in quotes. Where do you stand as far as democracy is concerned as a Pan-Africanist, first of all?
Thank you very much, Anji. I remember I told you already that you're a great journalist. So this is a beautiful question. And all the questions are great, but this one, I want to talk about that and briefly. So when I try to understand, the political systems that, in which we are, and then I belong to a group of people who think that we need to deconstruct the democratic system as it is practiced in Africa. And we may not have time to go into detail, but I'm going to give some elements. So it's not like I want a leader to be in power for 20, 30 years. I'm not saying that. And with the interference of the European in our system, if a leader comes and he wants to be in power for 20, 30 years, even if he's a great leader, it's going to become an issue. Because the Europeans think that everything that they want or they decide has to be implemented everywhere on the face of earth. So, but we can take some elements or features of the European political system, and then we can take some elements of the African political system. In America, it is about the winner takes all. That's America. And this is what we see almost everywhere. Capitalism. But if we cannot do that in Africa, because of the ethnic problems that we have in Africa, because we want to reduce the divide between people along several lines. It can be ethnicity, it can be ideologies, so we have to be able to say, you know what, if Anji wins the election, how Anji can take into account those of the minority who lost the election, we can still associate them to the management of the country. So you see, as I'm saying that, I oppose the principle of the winner takes all. I oppose that to what I call the democratic consensus. What I call democratic consensus, because we need to come together. This is what we used to do in Africa. Even today, we can see the Europeans, they try to do the same thing in international fora. We come together, we debate, and we agree on something. If you're in power, you do it. If you're not in power, you do it. When we come to power, this is what the Europeans try to do. And this is how, when it comes to the exploitation of the rest of the world, they are on the same line. They may fight in Europe. When it comes to that, they agree. So this is some of the things that we need to do. And then even the political system that we have, yes, I agree with the separation of powers, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. I agree. But, for instance, we need to have another chamber, for instance, of mediation in the society. We need, for instance, to have, they do that here in Ghana, in some other countries, but the chamber of the kings and the traditional chiefs, so that they can be involved also in the political system. And even when we talk about the court system, it should not just be about punishing people. We can think about restorative justice. We can have another chamber, another judicial chamber next to the one that punishes, and the objective of that one will be to resolve the issues in the society. We don't have to send all the people who commit crimes in the society to prison. You understand? So these are some of the values that we have in Africa, and this is what I'm proposing, this is what we're suggesting.
Yes. I want us to actually get your view on how corruption, bad governance, and you already talked about longevity in power. How you think they are setting Africa aback as far as its progress is concerned?
Usually, when I don't even like to talk too much about corruption, because it is obvious that if a leader is doing money embezzlement, the money is supposed to use to try and then develop a city, and then using the money for himself, then of course it's a problem. Or if you are corrupt, and then you decide, because like a European company gives you money, and then you give them like the contract, while you know that they are not the best, then of course all the things are affecting the performance of our communities. But Nkrumah said that the best way to fight against corruption is to raise the awareness about corruption. If there are many people who understand that corruption is undermining our spirit of self-determination as an individual and as a collective, maybe we can try to reduce its influence on our societies.
So, Doctor, a while ago we were discussing off mic. We were talking about the resurgence of coup d'etats in certain parts of West Africa. We can talk about Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and this coup d'etats are coming up. And in the background, we see signs of what has become Francophobia, so to say, especially in those French-speaking countries. What is this war going? What is this thing going on between Russia, the presence of Russia in Africa, and the presence of France and all that?
Yeah. So when I was talking about the People's Power movement, I forgot to mention Mali in the beginning, and then what Mali is doing today is it's a real revolution, and as Mali is trying to get to be free from the French, and then the country has been occupied by Islamists. And then the French and the European have been there for years, and they have not been able, in order to fight and reduce terrorism in Mali. And the people of Mali decided to take to the streets because the former president Ibrahim Keita was after some fraudulent elections. So people realized that they needed to go and take to the streets, and then this is how the military came to power. So I will not say that in the case of Mali that it is like purely a coup d'etat. It was a People's Power movement, and the military decided to restore order in order to lead, that People's Power movement as they're doing it today. So the reason why I don't have any problem when I talk about the French, because some people may be scared, but we should not be afraid. Because if you take each of those 14 African Francophone countries, you will see that at least 50% of the people are poor in each of those countries. When you have a country like Ivory Coast, people present Ivory Coast as a model of development. Like one of my friends used that expression, then what he called that in French, les champions locaux de l'économie, or the local champions of the economy. We don't have that in Ivory Coast. And then you take all the sectors of the society controlled by the French companies, 60 years after the independence of our country. And it is such a shame that the leaders in the country, because each of them wants to become president and they don't want to infuriate the French, they don't even talk about it. And the people are dying. So you talk, for instance, you take give the example of telephone, for instance. The French control that sector. You talk about water in the hands of the French. You talk about electricity in the hands of the French. You talk about the banking system in the hands of the French. You talk about the third bridge that was built in Ivory Coast. A French company did it. You name it. Everything, every example you will take. So, we think that we have at least to denounce that, to raise the awareness. I'm talking about Ivory Coast because this is a country this is where I was born. But the same thing, you can see that almost in those 54 African countries, almost everywhere. I even heard that here, I don't know which company is exploiting the gold of Ghana, that that they may even be giving like 6% to the Ghanaian state. I don't have any evidence, but what I know, that the gas and the oil that people exploit in Ivory Coast, they give 17% to the state of Ivory Coast. 17%. This I know. There's a French company called Areva, exploiting uranium in Niger. And there was a time, there was like a big tension between the state of Niger and then the French company Areva. Listen to this, my friend. After a moment of tension, Areva and the state of Niger came to an agreement that from that moment on, Areva was going to give 12% to the state of Niger. The question is, what was the percentage before that agreement? Do you understand? So when we talk about that, it's not like we are against the French. I don't speak Russian. I don't speak Chinese. We are close enough to the French because they colonized us. We eat their food. We watch their movies. We know their thinkers, the philosophers. Thank God. Not all of them are in favor of colonialism or neocolonialism. There were many who supported us in the struggle in the past, even when Babu was in prison. We saw that. So that is the issue, and then we have to talk about it. It's not like we want to replace the French by the Chinese or replace the French by the Russian, but we want to have the right to diversify our political and economic partners in Francophone Africa. Dangote, if you get a chance, watch Dangote's interviews. He's been trying to enter like the Francophone, the Francophone market in Africa. So difficult, and he spoke about that publicly in interviews. So why we cannot trade with Dangote, and why we have to trade with the French? Why? So this is a serious issue, and then I talk about it, and we want many people to talk about it, and one day we will be sitting with the French, and we can say, you know what, you can't do that. It's not that we have to do a war. We don't have the means to do like a war against the French, but at least there will be a time when the African leader will sit down with the French business community or the French political elite and say, you know what, we can't do that. So this is what Mali is doing today. People can denounce that Mali the way they want. Mali say, you know what, enough is enough. You cannot come and violate, the airspace of Mali without our authorization. Why are you going to do that? The same French who banned Russia today in France because they say that Russia today is doing propaganda because in their mind it is the context of war. But they are upset when Mali tell them that RFI or the French media should not operate in Mali. You see, so that's the issue that we have, and that's why we are doing what we are doing.
Quite interesting there, Doctor. I want specific, straightforward answers to these questions. You are a Pan-Africanist. I want this is a debate that is going on, especially in Pan-African milieus. We are looking at a time where we are living at times where the West thinks we should have a liberal society, so to say, one that permits things like homosexuality. And they seem to be turning their backs on our core cultures like polygamy. What's your take on homosexuality and polygamy?
I think that this is the first time somebody is asking me that a straight question like this. First of all, I don't like and I don't agree when people are killed for whatever. If they kill you because you're an albino, or they kill you because you're black, or they mistreat you because you're a black, then your sexual orientation, I do not agree with that. That's the first thing. So I think that gay rights should be protected, should be preserved, and then, but at the same time, I will not say because of my culture that I'm in favor of gay marriage. I know South Africa is doing that. I can say that I'm not in favor. People, they can have the civil unions, they can do everything that they want, but what the West is doing to go everywhere to impose gay marriage on the face of earth, I think that it does not make sense. On this, our leaders, Macky Sall from Senegal and Uhuru Kenyatta from Kenya, they gave the answers to the French and to Obama. So you know what? We can't do that because it is against our culture. And it's a very important element. I come from a polygamist family. And then when they're telling us that polygamy should not be encouraged, at the same time, they're promoting same-sex marriage. So if you think that same-sex marriage is good, so why you're not going to allow polygamy in the society? So but I'm not saying that there are not gays in Africa. We see them. But at the same time, this is not something that a state should do, like in the context. If tomorrow in the next 500 years or 200 years, that the number of gay in Africa becomes higher, then they can decide to do that. But today, I think that we have more pressing issues. We need to feed our people. The Europeans are exploiting our resources, and then many Africans are poor. The food that comes from the West that they impose on us. So these are more important issues, and that we can talk about. And so yes, this is what I want to say.
Doctor, the population of the West African region will be 800 million by 2050, according to population growth statistics. The resources remain the same. So according to the World Bank, if the resources remain the same and the population keeps doubling, we are bound to have a crisis and conflicts. What they want, they don't want. And they're advocating for population growth through birth control methods, especially in Africa. What is your stand on population growth?
Yeah, I'm against it. I'm against the control of a population. I'm against it for one reason. The Chinese are 1,400,000,000 people. The Indians, 1,400,000,000 people. The same Europeans who are telling us that we should do birth control, they're taking all the companies to China because the manpower is there. So the issue, yeah, they do the outsourcing. The issue is not about the issue is about fair distribution of resources. Stop exploiting us. This is what we're talking about. Stop exploiting us. We want to be able to enjoy our resources. We want to control our resources, and we will see if we're not going to be able to feed ourselves. So, like I said in the beginning, if you see, for instance, that the frozen chicken that from the United States has to be dumped in Ghana or sent to South Africa, and then as we know how America functions, listen, if the responsibility of the American states, like every responsible state in the world or in the West, they want to create the conditions to support the business community. So if that's why they go to Haiti, that's why when we see what the war against Ukraine, everything that you see. So if they think that this is the only way that they have to conduct business, I think it is not fair. So Africans are like around 1 billion now, and then even if we are 800 million in West Africa, and people are really producing and they're feeding themselves, there is no problem with that. And then what the Europeans should do is that they need to change the way they see society. They do, like in a European family, 1 or 2 children, and they think, no, it's not because you want to do 1 or 2 children that you think that everyone has to do that. No, it does not work like that. So that's my position on that.
So let's look at African unity. People have diverse views of what African unity should be. Vividly, tell us what in this your new vision. How do you see African unity?
Okay. So this is what I want to say. So when you look at the history of Africa, each African country can find in its history the argument to be at the forefront of the African Unity Project. I'm not going to say that twice, I said that once. When I look at the history of Africa, I realize that Ivory Coast has a competitive advantage when it comes to that. Even if Houphouët-Boigny, the first president of Ivory Coast, was not like the great promoter of Pan-Africanism, that he's been accused of balkanizing Africa. But because Ivory Coast is a land of immigration, you have people coming from different parts of Africa, and that's why I said that Ivory Coast is the microcosm of the United Nations of Africa. So when I talk to Ivorians, this is what I tell them. The historical responsibility of Ivory Coast is to build that unity in the light of the demographics in Ivory Coast, the history, the economic power of Ivory Coast, which is Ivory Coast represents 40% of the West African Economic Monetary Union. 40%. So when you invest $1 in Ivory Coast, you're investing in the entire sub-region. As I exclude Sierra Leone or Nigeria, and then Liberia. So that is the first element. The second element is that when Ivory Coast decide to take that responsibility in West Africa, if there is a country with which Ivory Coast has some strong historical ties, that country is Burkina Faso. So the same thing, the same way Germany and France came together to be the building block of the European Union, I think that the building block of the African Union or the West African Unity Project should be Ivory Coast and then Burkina Faso. And then Cheikh Anta Diop, in one of his books, he wrote that, according to what he sees, that the process of the unification of Africa should start in West Africa. I believed him, and I see it happening. And then, even if it is not Ivory Coast or Burkina Faso, today, all of us, we are proud of what the Malians are doing, and then we associate ourselves with the Malian Revolution, which is what? In West Africa. The same way, the people in Cameroon everywhere, they associate themselves with the mobilization for Babu to be free. So this is still West Africa. And then this is what I think, and that new vision that needs to be led by Ivory Coast should stand upon that Ubuntu philosophy that I was talking about.
And one of the very influential factors as far as African unity is concerned is also about money. It's about the currency. Let's look at French-speaking Africa. The France CFA, the debate of we should have our own currency. In West Africa, they're talking about the ECO project that it seems to be a failed project so far. What's your take about a currency, a unique currency for Africa?
Yeah, of course we want anything. Sometimes when we talk about that, when we are having that conversation, people think that it's a debate of experts. No, it doesn't have to be a debate of experts. It doesn't have to be about financial analysis or economic. No, listen, we are sovereign, we are independent. We need to have our own currency, and we need to control our currency. It is not normal that 50% of our foreign reserves are going to be deposited like in the French public treasury. That's it. So it's not like I'm going to come here and give you some like financial no. It's not about that. We want to be free. And then as we talk about unity, we may have some individual currencies, but sooner or later we need to have a common currency. And I think that this is what we're supposed to be. This is what we need to push.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Dr. Gnaka Lagoke. In the course of this interview, we've learned a lot as far as his vision of Africa is concerned moving forward. We're going to get into the last laps of this interview. Of course, it's going to be about the person Gnaka Lagoke after this break. Welcome back. Last question before we part ways on this interview with Dr. Gnaka Lagoke. Let's talk about you, the person. What do you do when you're not advocating for the Pan-African new vision you have or lecturing at different universities in the U.S.?
So I read, I research, I read, and then I write. And then this is what I do. And then I love to meditate a lot because it's not easy. And we're doing it. We see that we're making progress. We're winning victories, but it's not easy because when I went to Burkina Faso, I gave an interview on on BF1 TV, and then as I was talking about Pan-Africanism, some Ivorians who are hurting because Burkina Faso was involved in the rebellion in Ivory Coast, thought that there are things that should not have said in Burkina Faso. And they don't understand that at the end of the day, we may be fighting against with the people of Burkina Faso. At the end of the day, the people who are exploiting us are not the people from Burkina, are the Europeans who do not want to stop the system of neocolonialism. So this is what I do. Like I said, I read a lot and I meditate. This is what I do. And it's not like I have some particular hobbies. I don't do swimming. I almost died in the water twice. And then, so yes, this is what I do.
It was a pleasure sharing this moment with you on Ubuntu Pan-African Show. My name is Anji Anjei. It's always a pleasure talking to Sons of Africa. Perhaps you want to give an encouraging word to Pan-Africanists watching this show. We need to have our voices. We need to multiply initiatives like this, don't you think?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's why I wanted to thank you. And like, you know, when I saw you, I was like excited, happy to know that there is an African who has a show called Ubuntu, and as we've been promoting, and then I think the ancestors brought us together. So we need to multiply, you know, those things like TV shows, radio shows, podcasts. We need to denounce the Europeans. We need to talk about our flaws. We need to do all the things, and we need to be many to do that. Because if we are not many, then we come and just hurt the leader, and then we have to start over again. So yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to say. And one thing, two other things is that I have lived long enough. I have lived long enough to see Mandela becoming president of South Africa, as the black president of South Africa. I lived long enough to see Barack Obama becoming president of the United States. I lived long enough to survive COVID-19, and I lived long enough to see that the Russian military intervention in Ukraine is going to bring a new political order, and then so it means that, and then I've lived long enough to see Babolora sent to the ICC and then being freed because of the mobilization of Africans, and I've lived long enough to see the Malians expelling the French ambassador, and then expelling the French, you know, from the territory. I've lived long enough to see Blaise Compaoré, who killed Thomas Sankara after some 30-some years, being condemned, you know, by a tribunal in Burkina Faso. I've lived long enough. So, as I'm saying that, I want to say that victory is on our side. We are winning. We need to become more serious, and we need to be many more in the process. And then Pan-Africanism should be the political religion of each African.
You heard it from the horse's mouth. Pan-Africanism should be the political religion of every African. That's how we wrap up things on this week's edition of the show. My name is Anji Anjei. We might just be talking to you if you are a very dynamic Pan-Africanist out there. God willing, I shall be yours next week. From Ghana, Accra, Ghana, bye-bye from this end. We had a chance to talk to Dr. Gnaka Lagoke. Bye-bye from this end.